really only two ways you get into cleaning. The first way is nepotism. Somebody in your family owns it, runs it, operates it, or you accidentally stumble into it.
What would you say was your first major win, like a major client? Or
Was one of the smartest people I've ever met, but also one of the worst human beings I've ever met in my life as well. It wasn't a sale, it was more of an epiphany moment.
How would you recommend somebody who is just getting started, or maybe they're already
Software. That's the most important thing. Tech is already here. 75% is just cleaning. You have to clean the building and make it clean. And then there's the 25% of everything else.
All right, so welcome back to the Commercial Cleaning Growth Podcast, the podcast where we sit down with people building fast-growing commercial cleaning companies across North America. I'm Jeremy Dixon, founder of Elevate Clients Inc.
and I'm Anton, COO here at Elevate Consing. And every week we talk with cleaning company owners, operators, and industry experts about what's really working to grow, scale, and systemize in the janitorial world.
Yep. So today we are joined by Jeffrey Upmalis, Vice President of CNS Cleaning Company based in Philadelphia. And they have built an incredible company starting all the way back in 1983. So Jeffrey, welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah. So if we could start it off, just give us a little background on you. First off, where are you from?
Yeah, so originally I was born in Canada. Pharmaceuticals brought my family to the States. My pop worked originally for Bristol Myers Squibb and then ended up with Johnson & Johnson. We moved and settled into an area that is made famous by M. Night Shyamalan's movies in the area they came from in New Hope, Pennsylvania, and then eventually Newtown, Pennsylvania. I grew up one of those people that was obsessed with sports. I was a big jock. I would almost refer to it as a nerd. I love sports. I thought that's what I was going to do for a living. But not everybody gets to get paid to play recess sports. Unfortunately, there's a lot of hindrance there. And then I met my wife when we were very young. We were kids. I was 19 and she was 18. She went into medical school. I became a manager of some roadside safety company and accidentally stumbled into the cleaning industry via a Craigslist ad. I took on an operations manager position in cleaning industry, as you guys know, and as everybody that's watching this knows, there's really only two ways you get into cleaning. The first way is nepotism. You are born into it. Somebody in your family owns it, runs it, operates it, or you accidentally stumble into it. And either that goes one of two ways, that it eats you alive and you do not make it and you hate it and you never look back, or you immediately fall in love with it. And I was the latter. I dropped out of school. I saw how this industry was. The owner of our company back then was one of the smartest people I've ever met, but also one of the worst human beings I've ever met in my life as well. It was very valuable that I worked for him, though, because I attribute a lot of who I am in our industry now to this man. He taught me everything I wanted to be and everything I did not want to be in our industry as both an operator and as a human being. So working for him was extremely demanding, fast paced, and cruel. It kind of shaped who I am as a leader in our company now. And yeah, I haven't really looked back.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So right now, I guess for you, what's your day to day look like?
So it's funny you ask. When I was young and I got into this, I was basically in just operations, and all I was a liaison. I was a manager. I was overseeing accounts. I was doing inspections, but I'm a huge nerd. So I went way deeper down that rabbit hole than most of the people I was working with. I took it upon myself to join contractors on floor jobs, whether it be stripping and waxing or carpets. I would go out at night. I worked ungodly hours to do that. I had my 9 to 5 job, and then I would join crews at night to learn. After that, I kind of spent the first year or two just watching. I was involved in customer service, but it was mostly watching and learning. Cleaning has a cadence. and there's different people clean different ways. There's so many things to learn. Cleaning is one of those industries where you never really get to the finish line, and things change so rapidly, especially with the introductions in tech and things like that and
Yep.
software. So it's a changing landscape. Back then, it was rudimentary. Um, I remember all of us back then where we were getting square footage by counting ceiling tiles of like 2x4, or we had like a rudimentary wheel. I was
Hmm.
very early into realizing how dumb, and I don't mean this as an insult, but just how basic and dumb a lot of my competitors were and what they're doing. I was one of the first people to grab a laser pointer and get measurements using a laser pointer. I remember the first years I was doing it, I was being made fun of. But my walkthroughs, what it did is it improved my sales numbers exponentially,
Hmm.
because rather than walking around with a wheel and a notepad, I was capturing square footage, which allowed me more time in conversation with the client and to really learn. And honestly, in the beginning, it was more inspections and capturing things. But by doing it this way, I was allowed to become more personable. I was allowed to become more involved in sales. And the longer I stayed with this company, the more I realized how much, not just that company, but a lot of companies were wasting time and what they were doing with inspection reports, what they were doing in their sales, how they were collecting data. I remember when tablets came out, I made them buy me one. I was like one of the first ones taking notes on tablets and then capturing everything I needed on that.
Hmm.
It took the old owner selling the company, I kid you not, for us to like really take off on the tech side of things.
Hmm.
But back then, it was a lot of that. That's what got me in. That's where I started. I started really low and really building and learning. I think I was always really good at sales. I just wasn't being used in that capacity, and I don't think I had the confidence to really step in there yet.
Hmm.
Um, I would suggest to anyone doing this, that is really probably the most fundamental way to get into cleaning, is to get on the ground and like see what these guys are doing, because I think it shaped how I function now. My day-to-day back then was just that. It was a lot of driving around. My
Yeah.
day-to-day now is very different. Very, very different. It couldn't even be any more different. I get to go to buildings, I get to do things in customer service and operations, but majority of my day is behind a computer, behind a camera. It's on a spreadsheet. It's looking at analytics. It's all the things that I learned back then, and then now applying it to the team that we have now and helping them. So I got involved in sales before I got involved in this role, and my sales numbers were crazy. I mean, they still are. Like 65% of the time, actually I lied, 67% of the time, if I step in your building we've never met, I've walked away with a contract. If we've
Awesome.
met, the number is above 85%. It's closer to 89%. Those have held true for more than 5 years. And that's something that we track. And a lot of that was me taking either classes and things like Dale Carnegie, and learning how to really hone in sales skills. And now I think I've learned enough where I get to kind of preach, like a preacher, of like breadcrumb method, small goals. It's a lot of that. And so my day now is, I don't get to step out of operations. I get to go to these buildings, I get to travel and open operations, but a lot of it is coaching.
Hmm.
Mm.
Interesting. Here, Anton, if you have something. Yeah.
Yeah, cut off for a bit. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's great to hear that. I guess. What would you say was your like first big like major win, like or major client, or like a major win when you were getting started?
So it wasn't a sale. I know
Mm.
that sounds weird. It was
Hmm.
more of an epiphany moment. Uh, it's kind of like when you're a kid, you walk into a toy store and toys come to life, right? And you can see them. This is like a whole world. And then there's a day you walk into a toy store and all you see is plastic and paint. And there's the line that all of us go through with that. I would say it was kind of like an epiphany moment like that. I was young. I was frustrated with our operation. I was frustrated with the current vice president of the company. I was just frustrated. I was frustrated with how things were going. There was a lot of dishonesty between sales. There was a lot of dishonesty between operations and the owners, and There's a culture of fear that had been one. And I remember just this moment where it just clicked in my head of like, you don't have to do this like this. Like there's better ways. There's alternatives of how we can run as a company. I it took that in that moment. I remember it was a library system. I remember that I was fixing problems, and it was the first day that I decided, sending notes and text messages don't work. Why don't I just send videos? And I just started going, you know what? Why don't I just take a video of what I'm looking at and send it to the crew and ask them to match up a video? And that was like my first big win because it worked, right? It
Yeah.
was like the first time I went, holy shit, like this operation could be significantly better if I'm sending a video and asking a crew to send it back to me. And then I can decide whether I want to share that with the client, right? And that kind of created this foundation of like how we were going to run these sites and how we were going to control the quality without stepping on someone's toes. Um,
Mm.
when it comes to sales, yeah, I remember it. I remember this giant, massive credit company. I won't name the name, but they were humongous. It was like 250,000 square feet of office space, and I'd kind of formulated what I wanted to do, and then I undercut it. It was a big win, but it was a massive mistake. We got to hold on to that contract for 2 years. I must have replaced like 5 or 6 different crews over like 2 years, maybe even closer to 10. It's just this revolving door of being
Mm.
out at night, putting a new crew in, setting it up, watching them slowly fail, and this crescendo of shit, and then I would go back and start over. And like then I went, we have to price things better. Like we're not going to win every job. I don't have to win every job. That was an important lesson too. And so I'd say like the biggest win didn't come early in my career. It came when we repriced things and I was winning larger jobs, but these were contracts that were sticking for like 5 to 10 years, and it was working, and they wouldn't even go out to bid. They were just like, why would I, and
Mhm.
that kind of brought me into the relationship status. Like you find out when you start building things this way, you're not just setting up the client for success, you're setting up the crew for success, and it feels a lot better. It leads me to like what I preach to these guys. I like money, but I'd rather have clean money. I don't want it to
Mm.
feel like this is dirty money that we won, that we're not setting people up to succeed, we're kind of setting them up to fail. And I think that was probably the most significant is when I was putting bids together that I knew that wouldn't just stand the test of time. It would stand the test for the person that was cleaning that building, that they would be rewarded with something that could sustain their business and their model. And then it allowed me to focus, like cleaning's so interesting. It's so psychological. One person's opinion of clean is another person's opinion of filthy. And
Mhm.
so by doing it that way, rather than constantly replacing a crew, I got to actually build relationships with clients and not
Mm.
just like the highest person that signs the checks. It was everyone. When you go
Mhm.
into a building, you'd rather be known as Jeff, the cleaning guy, not Jeff, the vice president of CNS. No one can relate to that guy. But if you're just
Mm.
Jeff, the cleaning guy, it's really hard to get rid of that guy, right? Like that guy has a family, he has kids, he has a wife, he cares. You have to still follow through. Don't get me wrong. I can't provide shit service and then no customer service behind it. But I feel like the real victory came and the comfort came so late in my career. So late. It
Mm.
wasn't early. It really was 3/4 of the way through when we had set up that model. I wish I could go back and start earlier and set up something like that much earlier. I could have just spared myself so much stress.
Well, what would you say to somebody who is like, how would you recommend somebody who is just getting started, or maybe they're already doing like a million a year? How would you recommend they?
Software. That's the most important thing. Tech is already here, right? Like there's all these stupid coachy, preachy things that I say, but I know I'm right. Like proposals should be 5% of your day. Money coming in should be 5% of your day or less. If you're spending more time on that, your retention is shit. It's the truth. There's a balancing act between retention and sales. And if you're too involved in this goes down. If you're too
Mm.
involved in this, you're not sending enough out. And there's really only one way to get to this like perfect balance where you'll know when you need to hire someone. That's evident. That is self-evident. If you're making a lot of money, but you're losing a lot of money, you need to hire someone. You need to either hire them in a customer service capacity or fashion, but there's ways around that. and that comes in software. So if you can get proposal software, that's a huge victory for you. It's not that expensive, but quite frankly, you can template everything. So yes, it's a lot of work to upfront it and put in, like, this is what a templated floor job is. This is a carpet job. This is, but if you template that, you're at that 5% mark. You're plugging in. So what we did is all of our proposals are templated, and to the point that it populates immediately, depending on what it is, the first 11 slides that come up. And then it's insert name here, client name here, insert scope of work here, but that's templated, insert contract terms here, insert charges here. And that software will capture in picture all the areas you're cleaning and then all the square footage. So the powerful thing in that, and I'll even quote the company, is Route Janitorial, and Route is the most powerful thing that you can add on. That creates a proposal template for you. You get to use 5% of your day to send that out, and at the same time, if they ever ask for anything else, I mean, you should have someone go into this building. But if they needed something, you're pulling up their entire building. It's right there at your fingertips. You don't have to work that hard to track down what it is they need and what square footage and the price you need to apply. The second thing is you need something to track people. Now, time theft, if you are not a subcontracting company, is a huge problem. You have apps that you can pay for. They're not cheap. I mean, you're looking at a couple $1,000s a month, and most of those, but they're geofenced. And you have companies like BrightGo and Swept and companies like that where you're talking a click of a button, and that shows you where somebody is and how much time they've spent in that building. That also helps your retention. And the reason I keep bringing up that word is that is the most important lesson I can teach you is retention. If you land a client, know how hard it was. You have to spend a lot of money to land clients, whether they're big or small. Your focus should be keeping that client. If you want to grow, that's the thing you need to protect. What I say in our office is hold the bag. If you don't hold the bag's constantly leaking. This bag doesn't mean anything. A sales bag means nothing if the retention bag is going out. So the best advice I can give you is get your software, figure out your retention, and then focus very little on sales. Focus on customer service. Focus on building relationships. You know, there's a line that I learned at a very young age, and the line goes something like this: 75% of everything in cleaning is just cleaning. That's it. 75% of our industry is you have to clean the building and make it clean. And then there's the 25% of everything else. Everything else that goes into owning a company, communicating, making sure somebody's at this building, right? How you create a contract, how quickly do you respond, right? Having like an office and a customer service program, preventing theft, preventing all these other things. It's a 25%. And the interesting thing is, you more than likely will not lose a client for the 75%. There's no special pool of cleaners that people are pulling from. There's none of that. We all use the same crews. We all are hiring the same people, right? There's what? A million different cleaning companies in this country. And if you remove windows and everything else, there's what? 600,000 cleaning companies in the United States of America. There's 330 million people, but they're not all in cleaning. However, that 25%, it might only take once. It might only take one time of fucking around with that 25% model for you to lose that client. And that's like an invaluable lesson to somebody getting involved. If you don't show up to a building, if you don't lock the building, if they don't communicate something that happened in the building, like the door's not locking or something broke, if you're leaving a note rather than a phone call or a voicemail, because words can be read 8 million different ways. If that receptionist comes in and had a rough day, she's reading, hey, really sorry, I broke this picture. She might read that as sarcasm and get you out of the building right away, right? And then another valuable lesson with that too is you're very rarely working for the owner of a company, right? Like you're working for somebody that was appointed as like, and they're like the liaison for everybody. They're responsible for everyone's opinion of that building. They hired you to make them look good, right? It's like that's your role. Your role is to make them look good. And if there's something I learned at a younger age, I wish I did, is you don't just have to make them look good at work. You can make them look good in their personal life too. I mean, you can get them gifts that they can apply to their family, concert tickets, a hockey game, a football game, something. They don't want to hang out with you. That's like a very valuable lesson. Like, don't buy them something where you have to go with them. Buy them something where it's like literally they're taking their friend, their colleague, or like their family. They see you enough. And quite frankly, you're the guy that cleans their toilets, so they don't really care. And that's like brings me to another valuable lesson. Nobody cares, right? They don't care what's going on in your personal life. They don't care what's going on in your profession. They don't care why this cleaner called out. Don't give them reasons. The first thing you should do is just apologize and fix it and make it go away and make sure it doesn't happen again. Don't tell them how. Just spare them all of that. They really only care about is their building clean or not. And the best cleaning company never hears from their client. That's your compliment. If you don't hear from them and you don't say anything to you, you're doing amazing. That's an amazing job.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Cool. So yeah, so Jeffrey, I know that you guys run, you know, mainly subcontracting model, you know, nationwide, or I guess all subcontracting model. Um, but how big is your internal team?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's like around 13 to 15 full
Okay,
time.
and so about 50. You said about 15 full time, and then when it comes to, I guess, partners or people that you know, your subcontractors, how many would you say you're working with there?
More than 1,000.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. And so how does that work with you guys? Like, what's the checks and balances like? What is your 13 or sorry your 15 people doing? And you know, in relation to making sure that you know the subcontractors are doing their job.
So they don't have to do much. There's operations managers that do quality control, and they're the direct report to the client. Um,
Yeah.
there's back of house. I mean, I liken cleaning and our company to front of house and back of house, right? And I'll break it down even farther. I'll have to apologize. Everything in my life, whatever I'm kind of living in my personal life, I use that as a metaphor to my professional life. So our operation team, like there's honestly a type of person we're looking for. It's indoor outdoor cat. If you're familiar with cats, you have cats who are indoor cats. There's no way they would survive outside.
Mm-hmm.
And you have cats that are outdoor cats that can't be indoor. And then you have a cat that just comes and goes as it pleases, right? It'll
Mm-hmm.
go outside. It will survive. It's not going to get hit by anything. It's probably going to I refer to my one cat as a bird murderer. We try not to let him out because he murders birds all the time. But I'm not looking for a bird murderer, but I'm looking for a cat that can be indoor, outdoor. He can do operations, customer service, can function in front of a client, but also do the sales end of it, and it doesn't hesitate to sit behind a computer. Those are very rare types of people, to be clear. It's the hardest person to find, but it's crucial. If you're going to run an operations team, they have to be capable to sell and they have to be able to do that, right? And then we have all the important people, super important people. That's all back of house. They run billing, they run collections, they run compliance, they run onboarding, they run our SOPs, uh, they run marketing. Everyone wears like a different hat in our office, right? The ones that wear multiple hats, and that's pretty much everyone, to be clear. But the
Mm-hmm.
ones that really have to do the multiple hats are the operations managers, and it's only because they're basically living out of their car, right? They have an office. Like I could show you around. There's like a whole office space that these guys. I've got like a bullpen right out
Oh.
there where these guys usually sit. So these guys, but the problem is that they're hardly ever in the office, right? Like they're mostly out in the field meeting with clients or doing sales or running things like that. The back of the house is where everyone is basically behind a computer and they run everything else. They run the compliance stuff. There's a lot of files. There's a lot of moving. There's audits. We have to audit insurance and workman's comp constantly. So man, it's a lot when you get big. There's a lot of people that need to be doing a lot of important things to make sure that your company is both compliant and profitable.
Yeah, seeing as you're nationwide, how do you still deal with the compliance, doing like nationwide different state laws and going around those and all
Man,
that good stuff?
well, I can tell you this: the thing I complain about the most is workman's comp and insurance. It's a nightmare. Um, I've been waiting for a tech company to get involved in this. I speak on podcasts about this all the time. If ever I go on a podcast, do you guys hear it too? I know a lot of people go on podcasts, kind of S their own D. I'm old. I don't really want to do that.
Hmm.
I try not to talk about myself a whole lot, but there's one thing I make a point to bring up all the time, and that's insurance. It's a nightmare.
Mm,
The first tech company to lobby and get every 50 state to agree on what minimal terms are, to have a website that you can audit to make sure that somebody is got active general liability and workman's compensation,
mm,
and that can centralize all 50 states into agreeing to use this one thing. That company's worth more than 100 million. I mean, immediately, day one. It would take a lot of money. It would take a lot of lobbying. It would take a massive undertaking to do this. I have no
mm,
interest. I put it out there because it's not just the cleaning industry; it's every single industry that needs to function with insurance. It's a huge gap, and the penalties are astronomical. So if I have a company um, that has insurance and they give me a certificate, that certificate's only valid for 15 days. If they miss a payment, the contract's completely nulled. However, they're supposed to notify me, and they don't. I carry this person. I have a document that said that this is good for an entire year. It might even say 4 years, 2 years. If I get caught where this person does not have general liability, I'm paying 10% of every dollar out to absorb them as an employee. The fines are like, imagine 50K at a clip, right?
mm,
So you're paying $50,000 to carry someone else's insurance. It is a headache that no one talks about. And it's funny to me because everyone complains about health insurance. That's the least of our concerns. Small business, large business, mid-sized business, your biggest concern needs to be workman's compensation and insurance. And it is a polluted field. If I look at New Jersey, I can pull up a website where I can check whether people have active workman's compensation. Now, I live in an
mm,
area that I'm connected basically 4 states. All three other states, there's nothing.
mm,
Nothing. Meaning I have to now have somebody who audits all the companies that work for us, contact the insurance agent, and I need authorization from the company to be able to do that, which is also a wrinkle. I
Yep.
need them to produce active concurrent insurance just to
mm,
avoid penalties and fines. Not because of labor, not because of performance, not because maybe somebody missed a payment. Maybe they got a new credit card and they didn't know, right?
Hmm.
And it's a massive problem in every single business. I think that is the biggest problem going on right now. Probably the biggest
yes.
headache.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Wait, so I guess I mean I don't know if you want to plug any insurance. Like, do you have an insurance company you recommend? That like, I mean, it's like,
No, because every state's different. I mean, you have Moody, you have those ones. You have even state like Swift is Pennsylvania, where you can go through the government and things like that. But I mean, we have to. I'm not kidding when I say this, guys. We have to audit every month. We can't even wait quarterly, right? Like, there's so many dollars coming in that we have one girl in our office, and her entire job is at the end of the month to contact every single company's insurance and make sure that it's concurrent, just to avoid fines. And that's like I don't know about other businesses and how they're set up, but man, what a just massive waste of resources and time for any company trying to operate. Especially because our whole model is sure. I mean, I like money, I like making money, but the bigger thing is helping small businesses, right?
mhm,
Helping businesses smaller than us land jobs that they necessarily wouldn't have had the opportunity to land, and rewarding them with that opportunity. A lot of times that we're letting them negotiate the price point they need to be at. I might make very minimal margin, right? But the service is I'm providing something for a client and fixing a problem, and I'm providing an opportunity for a smaller company to grow.
huh, yeah, no. Actually, with that in mind, I want to get into some numbers with you since
Sure.
no, yeah, you're doing much more than most people. What would you say you guys are gonna do this year?
I don't like measuring. Um, I've just never been a fan. But more than 10 would be the the goal. Um, Not 20, but honestly, the biggest thing preventing us from there, if I had if I had better retention numbers over the last 5 years, I'd say the number is closer to 20 would be what I'd be aiming at. But
Hmm.
retention's a really hard thing to do. It's really hard to find people that kind of think like you and work like you and operate like you and go out of their way to make things right. Complacency is a big problem, and drive and dedication and organization is a huge issue when you're in management. You need to be very organized, especially when you have that much freedom. But I would say if you would ask me 2 years ago, my goal would have been 8.5. You ask me here, I want to be somewhere between 10 and 20. And that's just reoccurring. You add icing on the cake is one shots.
Right. So last week, you told me that you were in Tennessee
Mm-hmm.
and you were expanding, right? So would you say that, or how big of a part of your day is sales, you know, at this point?
I So this is weird. I have a very weird mindset in that I've been in cleaning for so long. I don't see myself as a salesman. I see myself as a solution person,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like I'm not going in trying to sell something. I'm not. I'm going in to listen and learn and meet a new person, right? That's really how I look at sales. It's like,
Yep.
all right, it's like I get to meet somebody cool. I get to go inside their business. I get to hear about what they do and what they manufacture, what they produce, because we produce a service, right? But like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do? What are you producing?
Mm-hmm.
And I get to learn about that, learn about that individual that I get to meet with. I get to walk through an entire building. I get to learn right away. I get to meet really high functioning businesses, and you know immediately when you're in there, how long am I waiting for this person to come meet me? When they do meet me, how cordial are they? Are they happy to see me? Right? Are they
Mm-hmm.
happy to meet a new person? You get like a whole vibe. And without really walking the building, you can kind of tell if it's dirt. Like when you're doing this a long time, you can tell immediately how dirty a building's going to be, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you walk in and there's dust all over the windowsills and cobwebs, and you're just like, oof, well, I don't even have to ask what the problem is here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, no one's cleaning, but it might not be a cleaning related issue. It could be theft. You have to be careful in that regard. So, because of that, I never see myself as a salesman. I never do. I'm in buildings and I'm quote unquote what people would call networking all the time. Like there's never a minute that I'm not doing that. I'm not, I'm one of those people that even if I wasn't doing this job, I'd be meeting a million different people every day, regardless, just because I don't know how to shut the fuck up. Um, and I love talking and I love meeting new people. So in that regard,
Mm-hmm.
I think I always am. I think what people call sales, I'm doing all the time. You know,
Mm.
my wife, the owners of the company, everybody tells me what a great salesman I am, and it always makes me roll my eyes because it makes me feel dirty. Like I'm not selling anything. I look at it like I'm providing a small company, like I'm providing that company a solution in the form of another company that's getting an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I think the sales side of it is so naturally easy because I know they have a problem. You know, to quote Warren Buffett, if you want to make $1 million, just find a problem that everyone has, right?
Mm.
And so when I'm going in, I'm already going in knowing they have a problem. And so the quick answer is, what's the solution? And from doing this so long, I've seen enough of them. And, you know, it makes it, because of our model, it makes it so easy for us to get into new verticals. Right. And so, like, I'll learn a new vertical like every month. And in the last 4 years, I've gotten us into 6 different verticals that we never had before. And those
Yeah.
companies are super appreciative because they never had the opportunity to step foot in a building this size and get reoccurring work like hood and duct cleaning and like grease trap cleaning and like all this other stuff. They never would have had this opportunity. But if the client asks, do you do this? I mean, it's very easy for our model for me to say yes, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and then go back and get what I need for the requirements and become compliant and then give this company an opportunity to do it.
Mm.
I would say my sales numbers are probably so good because of that. I'm not going in trying to sell you something. I don't want to sell you something. There's a lot of times where I'm consulting clients on something they think they need and talking them into a different solution that doesn't see me make a dime, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I can give you examples of floor jobs where we still do this sugar plant. I mean, they're a global entity. I don't want to name the name, but they manufacture sugar that goes into every single drink you drink at a Starbucks. And they're huge. They're based out
Mm-hmm.
of Germany. They're all through the United States. And, you know, they had all this VCT in this manufacturing plant. And because of the sugar, it would just corrode away all the wax. And after about the fifth time I stripped and waxed this floor, I pulled up on a spreadsheet for this client how much they paid me over like the last 5 years to do this. And then I showed them the cost of installing ceramic. And I said, if you install a ceramic floor, you've just paid for it after like the fifth year. And you'll never have to have it look dirty. I can put a floor machine on this, and you never have to pay me to seal this floor anymore. Right? Now, I can tell you right now, I make so much money from that client a month. Not just in reoccurring work, which we do porters, we've taken over everything, but project work. And the reason being is I didn't sell them anything other than trust, right?
Yep.
I literally said to them, this is what you can do to fix this. And now point me in a direction I can help you elsewhere, right? Now we're doing audit cleaning, GMP cleaning, SQF cleaning, and these involve rentals with margins. These involve going into humongous warehouse freezers and removing ice from ceilings and things that you never would have thought you'd be getting in with huge lofty margins, all because you were honest about one sale that you thought you could get. That's also the hardest thing to teach a manager is, you want to get a bonus off of a job, but selling them something that's not going to work damages your reputation with that client right away. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like when you go into a building, you're there representing that person who's chosen you because they were appointed this person. They don't own the business. They're there to make you're there to make them look good to the rest of the people that are often critiquing what's going on in that building. But I think for the sales question, it's really the more honest you can be and the more valuable solutions you can offer them, the more likely you're going to get into their vault. And they're going to be more willing to open up the idea of you fixing other problems for them.
Makes sense.
Awesome. Makes sense. I guess what would you say is your most profitable or the best vertical that you guys are in? Type of industries that you
Well,
want to
notoriously, the best vertical you can get into is restoration, right? The problem with restoration is it's also extremely controlled by insurance companies. You make margins. I mean, we're talking all the restoration companies are going to try and kill me after this podcast, but I mean, you're talking they're renting a fan with an 80% margin for just putting a fan on a floor and running it 24/7, right? And you're charging them $100 a day for that fan that they're providing the electricity for, and then add in all the labor and everything. So your most profitable is always going to be restoration, but it's very risky because you're at the mercy of a catastrophic loss. It's those don't happen all the time. So there's this very strange ebb and flow that happens with restoration. You got companies that make 20 million a year, but it might come in the form of 1 month paid out $15 million of one fire, right? Honestly, your one shots do well. If you're doing it right and you've got one shots and you're doing a floor job, you can get your margins pretty high because it's the cost of materials, it's the labor, it's the time, it's everything else. Like a strip and wax job, you can get quite easily to 50 to 80% margin if you do this right, because it's the labor involved and what you're paying out hourly. I'll be honest, guys, I never chase margins. And I go back to what's the definition of net wealth, especially when it comes to a business. Well, it's reoccurring. That's the easiest answer. If you're going to sell a business, good luck selling your business if you're making 5 million and 4.8 million of it is one shots, and you're making $200,000 of reoccurring. Your net worth is maybe 300,000, because while you're saying that you clear all this bank, really the stuff that's keeping the lights on is really the $200,000 that you're getting every single month. It's very hard to sell a business if you don't have that. And I always preach this constantly. Putting top heavy clients where you're chasing large jobs where you're making high margins, you're putting your business at risk, because if you lose them, you've lost majority of your company. The smartest businesses build a bunch of really small accounts before they start chasing big accounts, because it's really hard to go out of business if you lose, one or two small accounts because you've got 700 of them. That's not even going to ding your bottom line. But if you put all of your eggs in 3 different companies, you're at the mercy of what that company does, both with you and themselves. So my
Right.
advice would be, if you're going to do this and you're going to make a lot of money, start small and build that portfolio. Build, try and get to, like, I don't know, $100,000 of small accounts rather than one account that pays out $100,000, right? And then when you've kind of got your foundation and your SOPs and everything in place where you feel comfortable, then attack big fish, right? Because you know you have the people, and if you lose that big fish, it's not really going to hurt your company, right? It's kind of like, what reminds me of investing is one of the safest companies you can invest in is Toll Brothers. And the reason being is they own 5 times their debt. They'd have to go out of business 5 times in order to lose their entire company because they produce assets that we live in. But they didn't put it all in like a commercial space. Toll Brothers spread it across all these small communities and townhomes and everything else. So it's like not like they have all their eggs in one basket. It's the same with cleaning. Just,
Right.
I would say, build a bunch of small clients and network through those small clients. That's probably the safest way to do it. And I think your margins there, that's more important. You can make really, really lofty margins with different duct cleaning and grease trap, and you can make large margins in restoration. It's just not as safe as creating a foundational wealth of small margin and
Mhm.
small
Yeah.
accounts.
Yeah, actually, I remember when we talked probably about a year ago. I asked you. I don't remember your answer now, so here's a good time for it. So you guys are doing over 10 million, but like you said, you would take almost any size account. So what's your smallest account?
Well,
What's your
you all have,
your
everyone has
biggest?
a floor, right? So
Hmm.
like that kind of depends on your market area, your floor. You have to calculate things in like operating costs, insurance costs, travel, what equipment's used, frequency. I mean, using a 4.33 method on months to calculate like throughout a whole year. There's a lot of things that go into it. I I would say I we don't really go under 250 a month. It's really difficult. And with the changing climate of insurance, who knows where it's going to be next year? I mean, I might be required to have a bunch of different insurance certificates and things like that, and that might change it all the way to 700 as a base. Like, I don't know. Maybe it eliminates a lot of the smaller stuff, but I know as it stands right now, it's really hard to get anyone to do anything if you're under $250, especially if it's like even only once a week.
Hmm. Yeah, because I mean, we talk to. I mean, obviously, we talk to cleaning company owners every day, and like we have people, even just like doing a million a year in there, just saying things like, "Oh, we wouldn't touch anything under 500 a month," and
Yeah, see, and look, everyone's model is different, right? Like maybe that's good for them right now.
Mhm.
It just, again, back to the idea, I don't see myself as a salesman. I see myself as a solution person. You don't know, solving that person's solution could lead anywhere. What if that one
exactly.
office is connected to an entire national entity and they
Yep.
randomly just decide, hey, I know you clean our one all state office, but we have like 40,000 more. So like,
Hmm.
wow. It's funny, like just talking about the margin thing. It was like one of my favorite things. Everyone's on Twitter and everyone acts really famous on Twitter. Everyone's very big. They're all super important. I always laugh reading everything. I don't know if you've noticed, but Jeremy, I stay very much in the shadows, and I don't say a whole
Yeah.
lot. But one of my favorite topics on social media is margins. Everyone argues like, oh,
Hmm.
if you're not making 45%, then you're broke and you're poor. And I remember one time I posted it and I deleted it because I was like, you know what, this is just a little rude. I posted my spreadsheet and I showed my losses on that year, and the losses were like 6 million, right? And I said, all right, I'm going to show you this. This is what I lost in bids. This is $6 million lost. And I pulled up on that sheet and I shrunk my margin to 17%. I said, guys, 17% of 6 million. Just do that on a calculator. All right. And I'll do this right now so you guys can see this. All right. So, like, if I'm at $6 million, right? And I go and I say, I'm going to put this at 17%. That's $1 million.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's $1 million. Who would say no to that?
Mm.
Exactly.
What idiot would say, you know what, I can't do this because it's not 45% margin?
Hmm.
Like that's silly to me. I think, and now listen, everyone's business model is different. I'm not critiquing the people that really argue about margins. Maybe EBITDA is like a big deal in your world.
Mm-hmm.
I just look at it like the same way I look at an asset. I look at the business as an asset, and it really just comes down to your net wealth. And I'd rather have that number padded as much as I possibly can. And where I might not make a great margin here, maybe I'll go collect it somewhere else. Maybe someone has a bigger budget. And not to mention a thing that people often forget is if landing the account is the hard part, right? And then your work is establishing a relationship. And then from there, you can take monumental or minimal increases every single year. Your goal is
Mm-hmm.
to have that account for longer than 5 years, right? So if you do the math and you take 3 to 5% increases over 5 years, that's 17% margin. All of a sudden, 5% times five is right where those people like to argue about where they should be.
Mm,
Yeah.
awesome. I guess to switch gears a bit and talk about marketing, which is what we do. So I guess what has been the best, as I should say, like the best marketing way for you to get new clients? Let's say like that's been working this year in 2025.
Well, all marketing companies are not doing that great right now. I think
Mm,
everyone knows that. I think algorithm changes, and I shouldn't say all, I'm just saying the algorithm changes and the addition to AI with those algorithm changes have made it very difficult for marketing companies to keep up. And that's not a knock. It's just, it needed to happen. There's only one way to deregulate, and that's to attack technology right now so
mm,
that you can get away from national guys and give smaller businesses an opportunity to succeed. And so our government figured it out and they haven't talked about it, but that's essentially what they asked the tech companies to do, right? Without really asking them, they basically said, America needs to be America first. And in order to be America first, you need to give small business chances. And if you look at all these tech companies, they kind of did their own version of a deregulation in the form of algorithm changes. Um, the easiest way to make money doesn't really have to do with marketing, it's self networking. You have no idea how big your database is once you're in a building, but it's humongous. I would go on LinkedIn, you start attaching yourself to anybody that works within that company, not necessarily at that branch, but anywhere, anywhere at all. The second most important thing is what you do with SEO, right? You have to really partner with somebody that's going to recognize what type of brand message you're trying to preach, and it's putting that as many places as you possibly can. You have no idea how powerful a brand message is. Um,
mm,
just like dating on the internet, not that I know anything about it, just to be clear, not a swipe guy and never really been on it. But uh, what you look like and what they read about you, that's the first thing that person's going to do is when they find you, just like your business, they're going to go, who the hell is this? Like, who's this person? Is he real? Can I validate the fact that what he's saying is the truth? They're going to go look at your reviews. They're how many you have, how many people are vouching for you. They're going to go look up articles. What articles are written about you and the different people? How many people work in your company? Are they easily accessible? Can I find them? And like what do they look like online, what kind of presence they have. The internet's a crazy place now, just like dating. Businesses evolved into that. It's
mm,
basically these businesses are stalking you on the internet as much as you would somebody that you're trying to date. It's very interesting. So I think having some type of social media presence, I think having a really professional looking website, I think having partnering with a company that understands what you're trying to deliver in your message and they're pushing that out there, that type of content. um, Social media is a huge aspect of this. You know, we have a bunch of interns that go on there, and shout out to Olivia. Olivia's great. You know, like I remember she made me just shoot this video of talking in Gen Z. I still don't know what I said. I'm still looking up different phrases, and you know, but that stuff's valuable. It humanizes the company, right?
mm,
It makes it so that when you're talking to them, they're not just there to clean your toilets, but these are people too. And I think that's a lot more relatable. That's with individuals. When it comes to procurement, they just I mean, if you're with a large company, they're looking at your company, they're looking at the hierarchy, they're trying to establish what type of representation you have online in a different way. They don't care about you, the human, they care about you, the company. What are they writing about? How long have they been in business? What kind of charities do they give back to? Are there articles about them being charitable? You know, they're partnering with like-minded companies. They're trying to create the core value of what they have and make sure that the cleaning company, even the guy that cleans the toilet, reflects the same core value that their company is trying to personify. So I would suggest if you're going to partner with somebody, those are the topics you need to discuss. How big are we? When do we get into something like this? And what can I do without a marketing company before I need to bring one?
Yeah, gotta ask. Like, so Jeffrey, what would you say is probably maybe the most what's the most important or the hardest lesson you've learned throughout
Um,
your entire time running the company?
Everyone's lesson is going to be different. Um, I learn, man, I do these things where I'll end up going on these like weird like self discovery journeys, right? Like where I'll tune out sports and radio and music, and I just kind of think about like what am I doing, who am I, that type of stuff.
Yep.
Um, I always grew up, like I told you guys, playing sports where it's very competitive and you're trying to be the best and you're trying to prove yourself. And, it comes with a certain personification that you're putting off. And I think one of the most valuable lessons I learned, and easily the most important, especially based on my role, um, I just posted this on LinkedIn. Actually, it kind of coincides with each other. It's a Nigerian priest, and his name is Juwan, and he gives this really important life lesson where he says, "Imagine being bitten by a snake, a very poisonous snake, and the snake bites you, and rather than focus on healing and solving the poison, you spend all your effort and energy chasing down the snake to prove to it that what it did, you did not deserve that,
Mm.
right?" And it leads me to the lesson I learned that it's not about who is right, it's about what is right. And so, in that regard, I think the message should be you're chasing solutions. You're not chasing meaning. The meaning doesn't matter. And how you personally feel does not matter. What matters is that the solution is in place and that really high IQ people will not correct something that you offer. They'll listen to you, they'll absorb it, and then they'll give you a reason why that's valuable, whether they use it or not, right? Why you brought something to them, they'll break down, hey, that's a really good idea because of this. And
Mm.
if you can apply it, that's a discussion that you have with that person. Maybe it's not applicable for X, Y, and Z, but it's really important to hear that person and hear that solution. It's really important to take that information and process it. And it's really important to focus on solutions, not necessarily meaning. I think that was the most valuable lesson I've taken both in this role and in the growth of our company. That a lot of people have a lot of really good ideas. Just because you've been working at something for so many years and somebody not have as much experience, or you might not deem them as intelligent as you. I mean, for Christ's sake, not everybody's that bright. However, it's really important that if there is a valuable solution in there, that is what you're focused on. Everything else is just immaterial. It's not important.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Sorry.
Yeah, this has been
Sorry.
great.
Wait. Sorry. I gotta. People will be mad if I don't ask you about this because I told somebody I was talking to you and they asked me. Um, so specifically, you do. I mean, and this is like totally different. Sorry, but
Yeah.
yeah, you do. Yeah. So since you guys are fully, subcontracting, and most companies are not doing it this way, how would somebody get into starting to subcontract? Because to some people, this is like totally foreign.
Contracts. It doesn't take much. You have to draft up a really solid contract. You have to protect yourself. You have to do all the things I said, validate, make sure there's compliance and insurance. Um, you have to set up a customer service model where you're monitoring their building. There's a lot of rules about what you are and are not allowed to do and what you are and are not allowed to say. But honestly, the answer is nothing. There's nothing stopping you outside of contracts. And like, don't just do it for the sake of doing it. It's not for everybody. That model is very difficult. It is a really hard model. I liken it to if you hire an employee, it's like war, right? Like everyone compares business to war, and it's true. It's kind of interesting though when you get near the top 10%. All of us are kind of working together. I know that sounds weird, but we're all colleagues. It's kind of like World War II with dog fighters. Like you hear these stories of guys that were fighting jets and they're at a bar drinking together and they're not trying to kill each other because they're aware they're going to be in a plane the next day having to do really scary things at 30,000 feet in the air, and it's a lot like that in our industry. It's my competitors, my colleagues. I've known these people for 15 years. We've been at conventions, we've been speaking, and a lot of us help each other. A lot of us have this community like ISSA and BSCAI. And a lot of us, like I'm flying out to Vegas in a few weeks to go to the ISSA convention. Shout
I'll
out
be there.
to ISSA. I'll run into
Yep.
some of you out there. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to speak this year, so I'm doing it kind of discreetly, except I'm now saying it on a podcast. And I get to go out with Bill, the owner of our company, who's like the nicest man I've ever met in my life. We're taking an ops manager named Corey, but I think it's really hard. And the reason I'm liking it to war, and the reason I'm saying all this is turning it back into what you asked me is, when you hire an employee, they're from your country. They're fighting for their country. When you're in a subcontracting model, you're hiring a mercenary. They only value one thing, and that's that paycheck. And you can build a relationship with them all you want, but at the end of the day, they're going to chase a paycheck. And so their grass is always greener. Someone might offer more money. And so, in that regard, the best advice I can give you is stay very even keel, stay professional with them, and make sure that you have a very comfortable margin with them and you, and that they are comfortable with what they're making, and that there's a very transparent relationship. That would be the advice I give.
But then who would you say it is for? I mean, or when would it be useful compared to
Well,
just
expansion, right? Like expanding into new states. I mean, are you going to fly out and set up an operation and waste all that time finding
well,
employees?
you might fly out, but
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if you have a client looking out there, everyone's on Google, man. I mean, everyone's on. You can look up. That's hard too, though. That's like finding companies is kind of like mining. You're doing a lot of digging, but you're probably not going to hit a whole lot, especially with the advancement of technology. You're usually dealing with VAs, and you don't really get to the owner, and it might take a few days for the owner to call you back. And even then, there's a distrust between it. So you need to have a presence online. You need to have something. It's just like, honestly, subcontracting is just like working for clients. You're selling to two sides. You're selling to contractors and you're selling to them equally as much as you're selling to the client.
it's a good way to put it.
Yep.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, this has been great. So before we wrap this up, where can people connect with you or learn more about your company and
Oh,
what you
yeah.
guys do?
I would say I am on Twitter or X, whatever everyone calls it right now. I don't hide myself. You can just look up my name. It's Jeffrey Upmalis. I will be the most responsive person you meet online. I respond to absolutely everybody. You can find me on LinkedIn. Same idea, Jeffrey Upmalis, Upmalis. And we are from CNS Cleaning Co. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us at our website at www.cnscleaningco.com. I'm about to change that to company. We just purchased that domain, so it'll change the company. But yeah, don't be a stranger. Come find me. Whether you own a company, whether you're thinking about it, I am kind of at your disposal here.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll put all the links to your website, Twitter, and LinkedIn in the description under the video, depending on where you're watching this. So yeah, Jeffrey, we definitely appreciate you coming here. And if you are a commercial cleaning company owner listening and you want to grow, outsource, or eventually exit your company, feel free to visit elevateclientsinc.com or click the link in the show notes. Thanks again, Jeffrey, and thank you everybody for coming on here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeffrey.